there is a tick in your yard right now, maybe more than one, maybe 100 more than one. And the worst part is you have been paying good money to get rid of them season after season, and they keep coming back. I am going to show you how to kill nearly every one of them for about $1 with something you can buy at any feed store, the same way my people have done it for more than 100 years, long before the sprays and the foggers and the men in white trucks ever pulled into a driveway. And here is the part that ought to make you a little angry. The companies that sell you the expensive treatments, the lawn services that charge you $80 a visit, the big box stores stacking those bottles up by the register every spring, they have no reason to tell you what we already knew. There is no money in a $1 fix. There is a great deal of money in a problem that never quite goes away. Stay with me, because right around the middle of this, I am going to show you the exact old powder my grandfather kept in a tin in the barn, the one that builds a wall ticks will not cross, and how to lay it down this weekend for less than the price of a cup of coffee. It is safe to walk on, safe for the dog, safe for the grandchildren, rolling in the grass. But first, do me one small favor. Tell me in the comments what state you are in, and whether your trouble is the little deer ticks or the big dog ticks, the ones with the white speck on the back. Just your state and which tick. That is all. It helps me know who I am talking to, and it helps your neighbors down the road. See, they are not the only ones fighting this. I grew up in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, on a farm where the back pasture met a line of woods, and that wood's edge was a thing we respected. My grandfather called it the gray line, because that is where the grass went from green and short to tall and shaded and damp. He taught me, when I was maybe 7 years old, walking the cows in from that pasture, that you do not linger at the gray line in summer. You move through it. The ticks live where the green stops and the shade begins. He knew that before any university printed it in a bulletin. He just knew it the way you know your own hands. Now, let me tell you why that matters, because once you understand the why, the whole battle changes. A tick is not like a fly or a mosquito. It cannot chase you. It cannot really travel far on its own at all. A tick spends most of its life waiting. It climbs up a blade of grass or the tip of a leaf, holds on with its back legs, and reaches out with its front legs, hoping something warm brushes past. That is called questing. It can sit there, arms out, for hours, for days, waiting for a deer, a mouse, a dog, an ankle. But here is the thing almost nobody tells you. A tick is mostly water, and it is terrified of drying out. A deer tick can lose its moisture and die in a matter of hours if the air around it gets too dry. They need humidity around them, close to 80% or more, just to stay alive. That is why you find them in the tall grass, in the leaf litter, in the shade along the fence, in the damp mulch up against the house. Not out in the open lawn baking in the sun. The open lawn is a desert to them. They will not cross it if they can help it. Researchers at the University of Rhode Island, at a tick study center they run there, measured this very thing. They found that the great majority of the ticks in a typical yard are not spread evenly across your grass at all. They are crowded into the edges, the woods line, the stone wall, the ground cover. The shady, damp strips most folks never think about. The middle of your sunny lawn might have almost none. Do you understand what that means? You have been treating your whole yard, spraying the whole thing, paying for the whole thing. When the enemy is actually hiding in narrow strips, you could walk in 2 minutes. They sold you a war across the whole property when the fight was only ever along the edges. So the very first thing, and it costs you nothing, is to make those edges into a desert. Mow the grass short, especially out near the woods and the fences. So rake up the leaf litter and the dead grass thatch where the damp hides. Cut back the overhanging brush so the sun can reach the ground and dry it out. Move the woodpile away from the house and up off the ground. Every bit of shade and damp you take away is a tick that dies of thirst without you lifting another finger. My grandfather did not call it humidity control. He called it letting the sun do its work. Same thing. The English are just now catching up to it with their meters and their charts. But mowing and raking only takes you so far because the ticks at the woods line will keep trying to march inward toward your house, toward the dog run, toward the swing set. So the next question is, how do you stop them from crossing over? How do you build a wall? And this is where it gets good. There is a barrier you can lay down that ticks will not walk across. And it is so simple, it almost sounds foolish. Wood chips, dry, coarse wood chips. Or pea gravel, a strip of it about 3 feet wide, laid right along the line where your lawn meets the woods or the tall grass or the garden bed. Here is why it works. And it goes right back to what we said about thirst. That strip of dry wood chips is a stretch of bone-dry, sun-warmed ground with no humidity to hold on to. To a tick crawling out of the cool, damp woods, 3 feet of dry chips might as well be 3 miles of hot sand. They start across it, they dry out, and most of them simply will not make the trip. The Connecticut Agricultural Experiment Station, one of the oldest agricultural research stations in the country, studied these wood chip barriers, and they found a 3-foot barrier cut the number of ticks crossing into the lawn by more than half. Some yards saw the tick numbers drop even further than that, more than half. With wood chips, the same wood chips a tree man will dump in your driveway for free because he is just trying to get rid of them after a job. You can call any tree service in your county and most of them will give you a whole load of chips for nothing because hauling them to the dump costs them money. So now you have a wall that ticks will not cross for the price of a phone call. Lay that strip 3 feet wide, keep it raked and dry. Do not let leaves pile up on top of it because wet matted leaves bring the damp right back and ruin the whole thing. And put your kids' play set, your benches, your dog's favorite spots on the lawn side of that barrier away from the gray line. You have just moved the whole fight off your property and back into the woods where it belongs. Now, think about how different this already is from what the lawn company does. They come, they spray a chemical fog across your entire yard. It kills the bugs. It touches that day, including the good ones, and then it breaks down in the sun and the rain within a couple weeks, and the ticks crawl right back out of the woods. So they have to come back and bill you again. The barrier does not break down. The dryness is always there, working every hour of every day for free. One man sells you a thing that lasts 2 weeks on purpose. The other way lasts all season and costs you nothing. You can see whose interest each one serves. But you and I both know a barrier is a wall, and a wall is not the same as actually killing the ticks that are already inside it, the ones already in your grass, already near the porch. So let us talk about killing them safely without a single thing you would be afraid to let the grandchildren touch. There is a white powder, soft as flour, that you can buy in a big bag for just a few dollars. It is called food-grade diatomaceous earth. Say that slowly. Diatomaceous earth. It is nothing more than the crushed-up fossils of tiny ancient sea creatures called diatoms. People eat it. It is mixed into stored grain to keep the bugs out. It is that safe. You could spill it on your kitchen floor and not think twice. But to a tick, it is the most dangerous thing in your yard. Here is how it works. And once you see it, you will never forget it. Under a microscope, that soft powder is not soft at all. Every particle is jagged, like crushed glass, like a field of tiny knives. A tick has a waxy, waterproof coat on its body, a shell that holds its moisture in, that water it cannot afford to lose. When that tick crawls through the powder, those microscopic sharp edges scratch and score that waxy coat to pieces, and then the thing the tick fears most happens. The water leaks out. It dries up from the inside. It cannot stop it. There is no surviving it, and there is nothing the tick can become resistant to because it is not a poison at all. It is physics. It is simply scratching a hole in their armor and letting the desert do the rest. Now, here is how you use it the right way, because most folks do it wrong and then say, it did not work. You want the food grade kind. It will say food grade right on the bag. Do not use the kind sold for swimming pool filters that is treated differently, and you do not want it around the children or the garden. Get food grade. You apply it dry on a dry day because wet diatomaceous earth does nothing at all. The moment it gets wet, those little knives clump up and go dull. So you wait for a stretch of dry weather. You take a simple hand duster, or honestly an old flour sifter, or even a sock with the powder inside that you shake, and you dust a light coating along the edges, along that wood chip barrier, around the foundation of the house, around the doghouse, around the base of the deck. A light coating, like a dusting of snow, not a thick pile. The tick has to walk through it for it to work. So you put it exactly where they travel, those edges and shady strips we already talked about. After a hard rain, you dust it again because the rain washes the old layer down into the soil. A bag costs maybe $8 or $10 and lasts a yard a whole season. Compare that to the man with the truck. You see the pattern forming. Everything the outside world sells you for tick control is something that wears off and has to be bought again. Everything my people relied on either does not wear off or costs so little it does not matter when it does. Now, I can already hear some of you. You are thinking, this is all fine for a man with a big farm and a fresh start, but I have an established yard. I have flower beds my wife planted 20 years ago. I have old shade trees. I have a garden, a patio, ground cover I am not about to tear out. This will not work for me. I want to talk to you for a minute because it works better for you, not worse. Let me show you exactly what to do this weekend with what you already have, without changing a single thing you love about your yard. An established yard has more edges, not fewer. Every flower bed is an edge. Every stone wall, every shrub, every patch of pachysandra or ivy or hosta, every old shade tree skirt is a cool, damp, shady place a tick loves. You do not need to remove any of it. You need to treat the line where the mulch meets the grass and the inside edges of those beds. That is where the ticks quest, right at the boundary, waiting for your ankle as you bend down to pull a weed. So, this weekend, take a 5-gallon bucket and walk your property line. Pull the leaf litter and the dead matted thatch out from under your shrubs and along your fence. Just the bottom layer, the damp stuff against the soil. That alone robs the ticks of the humidity they need. Then take your food-grade diatomaceous earth and dust a light line around the edge of every bed, around the base of the stone wall, around the patio where it meets the planting. You are not dusting your flowers. You are not dusting the lawn the children play on. You are drawing thin lines exactly where the ticks cross. 20 minutes of work, and you have turned every soft edge in your established yard into a trap without disturbing one plant. And here is one more thing for the established yard, a small trick my mother used along the kitchen garden. She kept a strip of bare, raked, dry soil, just a hand's width, between the lawn and the vegetable beds. No mulch right at that line. Just dry, sun-baked dirt. The ticks would not cross that little dry moat to get to where we worked. You can do the same along any bed you walk past often. A narrow dry strip kept clear, kept dry. It is invisible to a guest and deadly to a tick. The old ways were never about tearing things down. They were about working with what the good Lord already arranged and reading the land the way you read a face. But now I want to tell you about the part of this fight almost nobody understands, and once you understand it, you will see why your neighbor's untreated yard keeps reinfecting yours, and why none of this is ever truly finished until you deal with it. Ticks do not come from nowhere. A young tick, when it first hatches, is tiny, smaller than a poppy seed, and it cannot reach a deer. It cannot climb that high. Its very first blood meal, the one that lets it grow and survive and eventually find your dog or your ankle, comes from a small animal close to the ground. And more often than not, that animal is the white-footed mouse. The mouse is the gas station for ticks. A single mouse can be carrying dozens, sometimes more than 100 young ticks on its ears and face at one time. And the mouse is also where the ticks pick up the sickness, the Lyme, that gets passed on later. Every mouse running along your foundation, nesting in your woodpile, slipping under your shed, is a little factory feeding the next generation of ticks right into your yard. You can dust and rake and barrier all you want, but if the mice are breeding ticks behind your shed, the supply never stops. So how did my people handle the mice without poisons we would never want near the food or the animals? 2 ways, and they are both as old as farming itself. The first is the cat. Not a pampered indoor cat, a working barn cat, lean and serious, the kind that earns its keep. We always kept cats in the barn, and they patrolled the foundations and the woodpiles and the grain stores. And where the cat hunted, the mice did not nest. Fewer mice, fewer young ticks fed, fewer adult ticks next year. It is a slow, quiet kind of pest control, but it never stops working and it never sends a bill. The second is the one that surprised even me when I read what the English scientists found about it, the opossum. That slow, ugly, hissing creature most folks chase off their property with a broom. It turns out the opossum is one of the finest tick killers in all of nature. Researchers studied this and found that opossums are such careful, constant groomers that they catch and eat the vast majority of the ticks that ever try to feed on them. Some of that research suggested a single opossum could destroy thousands of ticks in a single week during the season. Thousands. That waddling creature you have been shooing away has been quietly working for you the whole time, eating the very ticks you have been paying to spray. So you leave the opossum be, you make a little peace with it. You do not have to love it. You just have to let it do its rounds. The same goes for the birds. If you keep poultry, guinea fowl are famous for it. They march across a field in a long line, heads down, and they will hunt and gobble ticks all day long. Even a few chickens scratching along your wood's edge will thin the ticks out. My grandfather did not call them pest control. He called them the help that feeds itself. Do you see what the modern world did here? It taught people to fear and remove the exact animals that were holding the ticks back, pave the lot, chase off the opossum, poison the cat's prey, and then sell you a chemical to replace the work nature was doing for free. An entire industry built on first breaking the thing that worked and then renting you a weaker replacement one season at a time. My people never broke it in the first place. That is the whole secret. We did not conquer nature. We kept the parts of it that were already on our side. Now, I promised you the powder from my grandfather's tin. The one in the barn, the one that builds a wall ticks, will not cross. I have made you wait long enough, and this is the one I most want you to remember because it is the oldest and the cheapest and the most forgotten of them all. It is sulfur. Plain elemental sulfur, the soft yellow powder, sometimes called flowers of sulfur or dusting sulfur. You can buy a pound of it at the feed store or the garden store for just a few dollars, and that pound will treat your whole property line more than once. My grandfather kept his in an old tobacco tin, and every year when the weather warmed, before we went into the tall grass to cut or to fetch the animals, he would dust a little around the cuffs of our trousers and the tops of our boots. And he would lay a line of it along the lane where the pasture met the woods. The ticks, he said, will not walk through the yellow. And he was right. We were children running through grass that would have any modern parent in a panic, and we did not come home covered in ticks because of that yellow powder and the way he used the land. Here is why it works, and the science of it is real, not folklore. Ticks navigate and breathe through their feet and their skin in a way we do not. They are extraordinarily sensitive to certain smells and certain irritants, and elemental sulfur is powerfully repellent to them. When a tick contacts sulfur dust, it irritates them, it repels them, and at close range it can kill them. It has been used as a tick and chigger repellent for generations in the Old South especially, where they called it the surest thing going for keeping the seed ticks and the chiggers off a man working in the brush. It is registered and recognized as a repellent against ticks and mites to this day. The old ways knew it. The label on a modern bag confirms it. They simply stopped telling people because there is no profit in a yellow powder that costs $3 and works. Now let me tell you exactly how to use it, because this is the technique I most want you to carry away from today. You take the elemental sulfur, the dusting sulfur, and on a dry day you lay a line of it right along the same edges we have been talking about all along. The woods line, the fence, the base of the stone wall, the edge of the tall grass. You are drawing a yellow boundary line around the part of your yard where the people and the pets live, a line the ticks do not want to cross. Where my grandfather laid wood chips for the dryness, he laid sulfur on top for the repellent. 2 walls in one, the dry barrier they will not survive, and the yellow line they will not even try. And for you personally, when you go to work in the brush or walk the edge of your property, you can dust a little sulfur around your socks, your boot tops, your pant cuffs. But before I show you exactly how to do that, I want to mention something for those of you who want to go deeper than a single video can take you. Everything we have covered today, the barriers, the powders, the animals, the edges, it is part of a much larger set of old practices that my people have kept for generations, covering not just ticks, but the whole of the yard, the garden, the soil, and the harvest. I put the most useful of those methods into a pair of field guides, the garden blueprint and the harvest blueprint, with all the old-fashioned cures, soil secrets, and storage methods written out in plain language you can carry to the yard with you. If you want the complete set, you can find both books along with the complete garden field edition. linked in the description for $97, a single afternoon's worth of what that lawn service charges for methods that will outlast every season you have left to garden. Now, back to the technique, because this is the one I most want you to carry away from today. That is where ticks climb aboard from the ground up. A light dusting at the ankles turns your own legs into something they will not climb. It has a smell, I will be honest with you, a faint struck match smell, but it fades, and it is a small price for walking through summer grass without a single hitchhiker. A few cautions, because I want you to do this right. Keep the powdered sulfur off your garden plants in the hot blazing sun, because in very high heat, heavy sulfur can burn tender leaves. You are laying it on the ground at the edges, not coating your tomatoes. And it is the elemental sulfur you want, the simple yellow dusting kind, not a fertilizer blend. Read the bag, make sure it is the plain dusting or wettable sulfur meant for the garden. Used as a ground line along your edges, it is gentle enough that farmers have dusted it on livestock and gardens for over 100 years. Think about what you now have in your hands. A bag of wood chips for the dryness, free from the tree man. A bag of food-grade diatomaceous earth for the killing, about $10. A pound of yellow sulfur for the wall, about $3. And a few animals you simply stop chasing away. That is the entire system. That is everything the man with the white truck is protecting you from with his $80 visits. For the cost of one of his visits, you could buy every one of these and have money left over, and yours would still be working long after his fog blew away in the wind. Let me put the whole thing together for you the way I would walk a neighbor through it over the fence, so you have it clear and simple. First, you make the edges a desert. Mow short along the woods and fences, rake out the damp leaf litter and the thatch, move the woodpile up off the ground and away from the house. Let the sun reach the soil and dry it. Every dry inch is a tick that dies of thirst on its own. Second, you build the dry barrier. A strip of wood chips or gravel about 3 feet wide where your lawn meets the woods, the tall grass, or the beds. Keep it raked and dry. That strip alone cuts the ticks crossing into your yard by more than half the way the research station measured. Third, you kill what is already inside. A light dusting of food-grade diatomaceous earth along those same edges. The foundation, the doghouse, the deck base, on a dry day. Refresh it after hard rain. It scratches their armor and the water leaks out, and there is nothing they can ever become resistant to. Fourth, you draw the yellow line, elemental sulfur dusted along the edges, and when you go into the brush, around your own ankles and cuffs, the wall they will not cross. Fifth, you make peace with your help. Leave the opossum to its rounds, eating thousands of ticks. Keep a working cat to thin the mice that breed the young ticks behind your shed. Let a few guineas or chickens patrol the wood's edge. The supply dries up at the source. Do those 5 things, and you will walk your own grass in July without that crawling worry. You will let the grandchildren lie in it. You will let the dog flop down in the shade. And you will not have spent $90 to do it, or $300 over a summer, or whatever the going rate is for a man to fog your yard with something that is gone by the time his truck reaches the end of your road. Here's the part I want to leave you sitting with. The thing my grandfather never said out loud but lived every day of his life. None of what I told you is new. Not one bit of it. The sulfur is older than this country. The barn cat is older than that. The dry barrier is just the wood's edge wisdom he taught a 7-year-old boy walking the cows. The diatomaceous earth is crushed seashells. There is no patent on any of it, no brand name, no secret formula locked in a company vault, and that is exactly why you were never told. There is no money in it. A thing that costs $3 and works for 100 years cannot support a salesman, cannot buy advertisements, cannot put a truck in your driveway every 2 weeks. So it got quietly forgotten by the world that lives on selling you the next bottle. But it was never forgotten by us, because we never had the bottle to begin with. We just had the land and the old knowledge and the plain habit of using what was already there. You did not lose this knowledge because it stopped working. You lost it because it was too cheap to be worth anyone's while to remind you, and today you took it back. You are the kind of person, I think, who would rather do a thing right with your own 2 hands than keep renting a solution that was designed never to finish the job. That is not being cheap. That is being a good steward of what you have been given, the same value my people have tried to hold on to while the world rushed past us. There is dignity in not being dependent. There is peace in a yard you fixed yourself with a few dollars of powder and a Saturday afternoon that stays fixed. So here is what I ask of you. Go back to the comments and tell me your state and whether your trouble is the little deer ticks or the big dog ticks with the white speck. Just type it out. I read them and your neighbors read them, and it helps every one of us see how far this trouble spreads and where it is worst. Do not just nod along and scroll past, take the 10 seconds and tell me. It matters more than, and if you would like to keep recovering these old plain ways, the cheap and simple things the outside world stopped telling you because there was no profit in them, then come along with us. This is not about following a channel. It is about a group of us more every day deciding we are done overpaying for what nature and our grandparents already handed us for free. Because next time, I am going to show you the one thing my grandmother grew right by the kitchen door, a single common plant that kept the mosquitoes and the biting flies off the whole porch all summer long with no spray, no candle, no coil, nothing but the plant itself, and one small trick about when to crush its leaves. It is sitting in half the gardens in America right now, and almost nobody knows what it can do. I will see you there.